I am proud to be the son of a World War I veteran, the nephew of a World War II veteran, the brother to 3 World War II veterans, to my daughter who was Operation Desert Storm veteran, and I was in during the Korean conflict. So that gives 7 people in 3 generations in 4 wars. I put the uniform on in the fall of 1949 as an ROTC cadet at NC State College. I took the uniform off in 1981 with 27 something years and retired as a Lieutenant Colonel, Army Reserve.
Where my basic training was, and advanced basic was in artillery, 78th Artillery, which was a battalion that had been in Korea and had been overrun by the Koreans, the North Koreans, and they lost their colors. And I was sent to Butzbach, Germany in August of 1958, where I served 17 months in Butzbach as courts and boards clerk for the 3rd Artillery.
March 46, and we went to Fort Bragg, and from there I was transferred to the Quartermaster Corps, took a basic in Camp Lee, Virginia. After that, they put me in the AGD department. I took post-officer training in Georgia, and then I was shipped out to Italy, and I was in Italy for some time, driving a mail truck from Naples to Rome every other day.
I joined the Navy here in Burke County in 1976. Went to boot camp in Orlando. I had a great time in the Navy. Once I decided to re-enlist the first time in 1980, I had made up my mind then that I was going to stay in and retire. And my goal was to put this uniform on, and I achieved that goal in 1992.
I'm Roland Beck. I spent 4 years, 1 day in the Air Force and traveled a lot.
Anyway, I joined the Air Force when I was 17, went to Lackland Air Force Base. Basic training in the San Fleas and Burrs, Texas. And from there I went to Air Force Radio School in Belleville, Illinois. From there I went to that oasis in the desert, El Paso, Texas.
I was in the Marine Corps in the late 60s. You know, in the late 60s, Southeast Asia was the place to go. They give you a paid vacation for 18 months. And my unit served in Da Nang, and I just praise the Lord to be here with these vets, because only a vet knows the heart of another vet.
And I went to Fort Bragg for basic training. Fort Bragg near Fayetteville, North Carolina. Went through basic training in July 1969. So I finished my medical training there at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And then they made a decision on where each person should go. And I was selected to go to South Vietnam. So I ended up in the I-4, in the northern part of South Vietnam, near the Phu Bai and Hue area. So I served there for a period of time, and then came back to the United States, and then I was reassigned to a hospital. I was a hospital corpsman at Valley Forge General Hospital in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
I was drafted by the Army at the age of 19 in 1970, but I fooled them, they didn't get me. I subsequently elected to serve 4 years in the Marine Corps. I was assigned to the Air Wing and served my enlistment as a navigator on a C-130 transport aircraft. The Marines had 3 C-130 squadrons, and I spent a year at each one. Cherry Point, North Carolina, Fatima, Okinawa, and El Toro, California. Of my Cherry Point flights were to Europe and the Caribbean, naturally. And most of the El Toro flights were in the Pacific, and our Fatima flights were primarily focused on carrying cargo and personnel in and out of South Vietnam, mostly Da Nang, and flying refueling missions near the North Vietnamese border. And I was discharged at El Toro in 1974 at the rank of sergeant.
I was in the National Guard, and I spent my first time down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, And lo and behold, the Cuban crisis took place at that time, and we was out in the field playing the game, and they stopped everything and got us ready to go to Miami. But the thing ended before we ever went anywhere.
So in 1974, I enlisted in the Air Force and went off to Lackland Air Force Base to train for the spiffy title of Electronic and Cryptographic Equipment Systems Specialist. I was hoping to travel a lot, but never got very far. My first assignment was the Pentagon. I was the first woman there, and there was a certain amount of resentment, not the first woman at the Pentagon, the first woman in my career field at the Pentagon. Certain amount of resentment about a woman in a man's world, but I survived.
I went in 61, and I joined the Marine Corps. They put me on a carrier during the blockade. And let me tell you, you get in the waters off of Cuba, and you look up and you see a Soviet warship, you kind of pucker. And if you've never puckered before, you will when you see that.